I'm from Kenya. I've been in Nigeria for 7 years now. I grew up in a farm estate. One of the things I used to dream about is like one day I want to be a farm manager. You know, as a kid, after secondary school, I joined a university where I studied agricultural education and extension. I had an opportunity to come to Nigeria. For you to be successful, you must have a very good crop rotation. We must have the market before we plant. Normally, people will tell you can't have this size of bell pepper in the open. This will be like our third harvest. Our target per planter for open field is normally 2 kilo. From so far what we harvested, I think we are surpassing that.
Hey fam, you're welcome back to the channel. See your girl Danica Kosi, and today we are visiting a farm here in Iseyin, Oyo State, Nigeria. We are right here at Pattern Farm. We are going to listen to his success story to know how he decided to come down to Nigeria all the way from Kenya and become a farmer here in Nigeria. And of course, we are going to learn a lot of things about farming. Please subscribe to the channel if you're yet to do that. Give this video a thumbs up and of course, share this video. Let us dive right into the video. Come with me. Let me go and introduce you to the CEO of Pattern Farm. Can we know your name?
Farmer Samuel Magara.
Yeah.
I'm from Kenya. I've been in Nigeria for 7 years now.
Oh, like you guys, a Kenyan and a farmer here in Nigeria. Wow, that's so beautiful. When did you start?
Where I come from, actually, my parents, we were doing farming, and I grew up in a farm estate. And one of the things I used to dream about is like, one day I want to be a farm manager. You know, as a kid, that is what you are looking at. You want to be something. So after secondary school, I joined a university where I studied agricultural education and extension. I had an opportunity to come to Nigeria to work in one farm in Kwara State. Within that period of 8 months I was working there, I saw a gap, a very big gap in the vegetable market in Nigeria. Like the demand is so high and the supply is not there. And then besides that, the quality of what common farmers produce is not really so good. I had interactions with the clients who wanted a specific quality of produce. And since I had a know-how and I had already known the market dynamics, I decided to stay. And so the journey started in 2017, but I was working for people. But the background, I wanted to own something. So when I came to this state, Oyo State, Iseyin specifically, I like the climate. And I decided to buy land. So I acquired the land. But then for you to be able to produce that quality, it needs that you have to invest a lot, especially in the irrigation system. So I didn't have much fund then, so I had to be working as I developed the farm. So 2022, I decided to call it quits to work in other companies and decided to do my own. And so far, so good. Yeah.
Okay, so I know that some of my viewers watching this video might be wondering, like, a Kenyan in Nigeria, why Nigeria? Why did you choose to stay back in Nigeria? And
so number one, any business that you are looking into, you have got to look at the market part of it.
okay.
Because if you have a product and you are unable to sell, you can't get your money. So when you look at Nigeria, the population number one, and this is food. As long as there are people, they will always eat. And with that, if I have so many units, it's easy for me to sell. And then another very important factor that I had to consider was the fact that many farmers here, they do the traditional farming. Not very many do irrigation farming. And then we have so many people outside Nigeria who sometimes miss their indigenous food. For instance, not so many people will want to cook maybe with bell pepper, for instance. So the local farmers may not even give a lot of attention to the bell peppers. There are some people who come and say, we want, for example, radicchio. This is an Italian vegetable. There are people who say they want jalapenos. These are notes, you know. So when I looked around, the local farmers, many of them cannot produce these things. And yet the demand is there. So with the demand, of course, you have to supply. And that way you get your money, because I do not do it for passion.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing it for profit as a businessman. So that is very, very key, that the numbers are there and therefore it's easy to sell. And then maybe unlike where I come from, where we have a lot of taxes, especially in the agricultural sector, here I think there are less taxation. Though with the inflation now, the prices of input seeds is going up, but it still is manageable. If you have the knowledge, you can easily do it.
What and what do you cultivate in your farm?
Here we do quite a lot on the farm here, but our focus mainly is on cucumber. Here we call it cucumber. Yes, and we do tomatoes, bell peppers, the green and the colored ones, onions, sweet corn. We do this local vegetable because, you know, if you have the tomatoes, it goes well with the local vegetables. Then we do habanero.
All right.
That is rodo. Is it rodo? They call it rodo here. Then we do chilies, because sometimes I get people interested in other varieties of crops. We do a lot of trials. For instance, there's somebody who wanted to do large-scale cabbage, so I decided to do a little bit of cabbage. We do eggplant or the aubergines. I have this habit of trying any new crop I see in the market, because things change because of the climatic changes here. There are periods of the year when certain crops fetch high.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you know, others during that time they don't fetch high. Depending on the season, we decide what to plant. But what is unique with us is that anything we plant here, we will to ensure that we have something to supply week in, week out. That also doesn't allow us to do very large scale in one particular crop. Also, that is very critical in the aspect that in farming, there are so many risks involved. Climatic, you could be having cattle coming in, you could have fire or something, you could have a disease outbreak. So for us to diversify the risks and reduce the chances of losing everything, that's why we do a number of crops, so that if one crop fails, the other one does not fail. And that way you mitigate the issues around risks.
So have you ever regretted your decision to become a farmer ever since you started farming?
Never ever. I will never regret becoming a farmer. Because one, you see, farming is life. If you are a humble person, then farming is the way to go. Because what we do as farmers is you do like 30%. You buy seed, put it on the ground, the rest is God. If you have that vision, because as I said, I don't do it for passion, it's a business. So I do not think, I've not regretted. It has got its own challenges, but once you have the know-how, you get the right inputs, you get the right stuff, and then you have a proper plan. And when I talk of a plan, you are not just planting. You've already gotten your market. You know the market price. So you can actually quantify how much you are going to use before the final product is out. And you know how much you are going to get before you even go to the market. Already you know. In farming, we normally say you do not blow, you grow. So if you have that plan, you cannot really get it wrong. Again, you must plan, because if you do it like the traditional way, you are depending on rain, it doesn't work. So because of the irrigation, you are sure that my irrigation is set, I have purchased the right seed, I have gotten the right inputs, the right quality, and of course your staff. That is key, that your staff knows what they are doing. Then chances of you failing are minimal. You can't gamble actually.
I'm seeing a lot of bell peppers in your farm. So how profitable is it?
The reason why bell pepper, one is the ease of selling. The market is so huge, and we always have a demand for it. Now, in terms of profitability, maybe we can do a calculation.
All right.
If I do a standard 1 acre, from which that can be like our baseline, 1 acre of bell pepper at a spacing of 60 centimeters apart, we can have a population of 6,000 plants. So if you have 6,000 plants and your target is 2 kg per plant,
okay,
of course, sometimes we can get as high as 4, depending on how you feed them and you've sprayed and we don't have any other issues. You can get as high as 4. So let's base it on 2 kilo. So 6,000 plants times 2 kilos, that will give you 12,000. And if you sold it at even 2,000, that is already 24 million. And it's not just what we are saying, it's a reality, right? Now, for that 1 acre, if you are setting up a standard irrigation with the current price, you spend, give and take, 2 million for irrigation. Then for the inputs, you spend 2.5. That is already 5.5.
Okay.
And then if you add labor for like that 6-month period, you will spend something like 1.2. So everything combined won't be up to 10 million. So
yeah.
Then even if you decided now to subdivide that profit within the 6-month period, you are raising your plants. It makes economic sense. If you wanted to take that money and put it in the bank, I don't think you can see the returns. To go back to what you had asked me earlier, why the bell peppers? That is the simple reason. I can do the mathematics for doing habanero. You realize that it makes a lot of sense. But then the part that many maybe investors forget is the aspect of getting labor that is informed. Because you can't just pick anybody on the street because he can dig, he can spray, and you expect to get that. So many a times the challenge I have with a few people I've worked before is you want to employ an agronomist, you want to underpay him, and then you expect results. It doesn't. A chunk of the money that especially that goes into production is that part of the agronomy. You've got to pay your agronomy well. Fortunately, I am the agronomist. So the people working under me, I give them the programs they need to follow. And then you can produce so much of the bell pepper, and if you don't know where you are selling them, you may not get that price too. Because if I carry this, for instance, and I take it to our local market here in Isai, they'll be telling, Oga, let me give you 50 naira for this.
Yes.
But I know where I can sell this one piece for up to 500 naira. So you've got to get that market information. Actually, before you even start, you need to do the market research. You know where you are selling. And then some clients are very specific. Some will tell you that if it's the green bell they want, they don't want you to supply them, and then after 2 days it's turning to red. So you've got to go for a variety that will always retain the green color. Some will tell you we want a yellow, but that yellow has to be like 60% yellow. So you must know your client, and that way you do backward calculation so that you know this is the amount I'm going to spend to produce for so client. For instance, you saw we were harvesting cucumber. We have some people who don't care about the quality of the cucumber. So we have varieties that are very cheap. So we buy those ones, we plant for them. But there are those who are very specific. They want a certain length of cucumber, a certain color, a certain taste. So you've got to invest to produce that. So it's not all about looking at the numbers you are getting. Do you have the technical know-how? Do you have trusted employees? Because so many things go into play before you can be able to produce this. There is a big reason for having irrigation system. Now, if you depend on rain alone, there are things you may not do on particular days when it did not rain. For instance, if we are using a particular fertilizer, we do fertigation. That is, you mix the fertilizer with the irrigation water. So if it rained and your fertilizer is in the tank, if it did not rain rather, how is that fertilizer going to go to the plant? And we are not entirely relying on the rain or on the inorganic fertilizer. There are some fertilizers that we give in bits, small quantities per maybe 2 days. So if you did not have that rain in those 2 days, it means you are not going to be able to do that. And then some of these crops like the cucumbers, watermelon, they are basically 60% is water. So that one day that you did not have water and you did not have irrigation, it's going to affect your performance. We don't do rain farming. We do irrigated farming. Whether there is rain, whether there is no rain, we are always farming. Some of the produce, the forces of supply and demand come into force. So like during this rainy period, if you are to sell in the local market, cucumber, these local vegetables, the price will have crashed. During the dry period, the price will have gone up, but unfortunately, there is no produce. So that is the time we will always get our money back, that, okay, at least we have something that we are selling, even during that period.
So what are the challenges that you have faced so far as a farmer here in Nigeria?
Quite a number, but at any given point, we try to come up with a solution. Number one, in this our area here, there is the aspect of the cattle rearers versus the people do the crop business. So like the first time I got this land, we used to have a lot of cattle coming in, especially in the evening. And then my staff were not staying here. So we were losing in 2 ways. You are losing direct loss from the crop, and then those animals will step on your irrigation materials, which are very costly. And we had to rally around with the security agencies, but it doesn't help all the time because they are also busy. We had to talk to the area leaders, their leaders, and then the best thing is to just fence your farm, because it will take them a while before they can even break the fence and get into the land. That is one. Number two, the aspect of getting workers. They are very erratic. Today you have 4, tomorrow all of them decide to go. And I think it's because of minimum wage. They will be talking to their colleagues who will tell them, in farm B, we are getting A, B, Z. In farm C, we are getting this. And sometimes they move. And funny enough, after maybe moving around, they eventually come back. Another challenge is the economy, the inflation. You'll go to buy seed today for example, if I may take an example of this bell pepper seed. The price kept changing like after every 5 days because of the dollar, exchange rate. I remember we were buying NPK. That is one fertilizer we use a lot here, for 35,000. Currently, the same bag is going for 60,000. So if you do not plan for the entire year, you are in trouble. If you talk of some insecticide like Didifos, 1 liter, we were buying it for 4,000. Currently, we are buying it for 14,000. So in as much as when you are doing your economics on paper, on your spreadsheet, that I'm planting so-so plants, I'm spending so-so amount of money, this is what I'm going to get. If you did not buy all those things at that point when you are making your budget, chances are you may not get the same result at the end of the day. And then the other challenge is the market price fluctuations.
Okay.
So if you are relying only on one market and then for any reason they close down and you didn't have another place you are going to sell, sometimes you may find these are perishable produce. So you may harvest, you have not sold, you have to sell at a throwaway price. I think the other challenges are basically like the roads. It's affecting everybody. Like now we are in Isen, Oyo. Our main market is in Lagos. That is 3 hours away drive. So if your vehicle is not refrigerated, if it breaks down the road, sometimes you have losses. And then we do not have very good insurance policies that in other farms you can insure your plants. Of course, of late there are some organizations that are coming up with it, but you are not 100% that if, for example, during the drought period, you may lose crops before they compensate you. So it's not very certain. If the government had a way of getting down to the real farmers, because there are so many things they say that the government is doing one or two things. When you try to subscribe to that, the money never really gets to the actual farmers. It disappears somewhere in between. Well, for us, we don't rely on that. We started with our seed and we have been growing that. We have been plowing back the profits, and it has enabled us, at least the entire farm now is under production. And we have other satellite farms where, for example, we are doing banaro. We are not doing it here. We are doing like butternut, squash, these herbs. We are doing it in other satellites. And of course, the partnership with other farmers also is very, very important. 3 months ago, we discovered that some farmers here have an organization whereby they bring their goods together and the cost of transportation really goes down. So that kind of collaboration is what we are trying to key into, so that it can lessen our stress.
Can you just show us around the farm? Is it possible?
Yeah, we can move around and see other things.
These are all
This is cucumbers, yes.
Oh wow.
So before we finish harvesting this one, this one will have started flowering.
Oh wow.
So that's what we do.
Okay.
So because we have to supply cucumber every single week. So here we have planted aubergine. This is the eggplant.
Okay.
The market for it is not that big, so we plant very little. So this corn, this place was farrow. So they said, let's plant small corn for eating. Then we have squash.
Can I cross?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
This is squash, butternut.
Okay.
They don't need a lot of attention.
Yeah, we eat this in the place because it's omogoro. We eat the leaf.
Yeah. Yes, even the leaf is eaten. Yeah. So they don't require a lot of attention. So we just plant them. This area is for, how will I say, we just want the area to rest small before we bring in the actual vegetables. And for you to be successful, you must have a very good crop rotation. Why crop rotation? There are some pests or insects or diseases that are specific to certain plants. So if you continuously keep planting the same crop on the same spot, those pests will accumulate to a level such that you can't be able to control. Or the chemicals you are using become resistant. The pests become resistant. So you've got to plant something that you have not been planting. It breaks the cycle. So by the time now we come back here to do our tomatoes or our bell peppers here, we will not have those thrips. So that is why we decide to, once in a while, we plant something that is not in line with what we normally do. What we had here before, we had here habanero, and the upper part we had tomatoes. So now we planted groundnut there. You know, groundnut are legumes, so they fix nitrogen in the soil. And here we decided to do the squash. We do the corn. It will break the cycle, because adjacent here we have chilies. And this one also attracts same insects, pests that attack the habaneros and the bell peppers. So we pump the water from the river to the tank. Why the tank? We normally mix some fertilizers there, some chemicals there, when we want to feed the plants directly. So again, the river water, you need to treat it occasionally, because maybe it has sand, and because we are using drip irrigation, the sand can block where the water is coming from. So you got to take it there, then we use filters before the water can come out. So you see we have groundnuts there.
Okay, these are groundnuts.
Yeah, these are groundnuts. The other ones you saw there are older. And
okay.
They are...
So how long does it take for these groundnuts to...
Groundnut is 3 months.
Okay, 3 months.
Yeah.
What about bell peppers?
Bell peppers, it depends. If you plant indeterminate one, this one you can harvest as long as you take care of them. 6, 7, 8 months. But like for the open field, we like to plant the indeterminate ones. That one is determinate ones rather. That one is 4 months maximum. You have completed their cycle. Then you start another one. So, but for the greenhouse one, we plant the indeterminate. Those one you can harvest as long as 9, 8 months. even up to a year, depending on the management. But it comes with a cost. The seed of a determinate plant is way cheaper than a seed of indeterminate plant. For instance, this variety that we planted there, for 25 gram, we bought it for 3,800. That it will give you around 2,000 plants. If you want now to plant the indeterminate red for 1,000 plants, a good variety currently we buy it for 150,000. So to get 2,000 is 300,000. So somebody who doesn't know will say, why will I buy seed for 300,000 when I can buy seed for 3,800? But now, from our calculations, you realize this, we are selling a kilo for 2,000. The colored one, you are selling a kilo for 6,000. And in terms of productivity, here you are targeting 2 kilo. The other colored one, you are targeting 6 kilo. So when you do your math,
okay.
So that is what actually determines what you are doing. This section is meant for chili. We have a client who is asking for minimum of 200 kilos of chili every week.
Okay.
So we did our trials and we identified which variety does well here, because different areas will need different varieties depending on so many other factors. The last part there, we want to do open field indeterminate tomato.
Okay.
People don't do that kind of thing around here, but the seed is very costly. So probably we can start following that up. Here we have the chilies. These are only 4 lines, but from here alone we harvest after every 2 weeks 40 kilos. But if you are doing greenhouse for tomatoes, then you have to ensure that your market is already established before you can do that, because that's the only way you can control the price, especially if you do beef tomato, because not everybody is doing beef tomato. That one you can get a constant price. But if you are doing plum tomatoes that everybody else has, then it is tricky. And generally, in any farm that is doing vegetable and you want to get an easy market, there are complementary products. For instance, if you have tomatoes, ensure you have pepper. That is the rodo. And then you have, if you can have onions too, they are supplementary. Many a times a customer will come, you can't sell tomato if you don't have pepper. And you can't sell pepper if you don't have tomato. But sometimes they can buy pepper without tomato. What you realize with the farm is that we've got to plan everything ahead. Like if I have to supply cucumber 1,000 kilo every week, it means I must plant cucumber every 2 weeks. Onions, I plant it every week because we do not start from seed. We use splits. That is already grown up onion. We cut it. You use the part to plant. So that one is faster because it takes 6 weeks from planting to harvest. So if it's the chilies, we plant after every 2 months, small sections, so that we are able to sustain that demand. So everything that goes on in this farm, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of planning. And unlike the ones we plant in the open there, you can see this is looking very fresh, because inside the greenhouse here, the instances of pests, insects are minimal. And of course, the growth rate in the greenhouse is higher than outside. It's protected. So you are assured of the quality. Greenhouse farming, there are those people who will say they want those mega, big metallic structures. The idea is, this is a bamboo structure. It's not that costly. Now, whether you use the metallic one or you use this bamboo one, you are going to get the same result.
Same result.
The same result. The only thing is that this may not last as long as the metallic one. But by the time this structure you are saying is old, like this one is going to start here. I have done over 5 cycles. And with this bell pepper farming, within the first cycle, I will have returned the money I used for construction, the money I used for the inputs. So the other cycles, you understand? So it's just looking at what are the key components, or why do you need a greenhouse? A greenhouse is not all about the structure. It's about the environment.
All right.
Yeah. The moment you have the right environment, and then you get quality produce like this, which will fetch you, of course, a higher price than the one you are planting outside there, you are good to go.
No, some people might just argue that the other one is permanent, right?
Yeah.
And then this one is kind of temporal. Like, is it worth it? Is it better? Some might argue, is it not better? Why not just go for something more permanent and then get it over with and know that I'm done with constructing a greenhouse, other than doing something temporal?
If I may answer that directly and using figures.
Yes.
If I wanted to construct or fabricate a locally fabricated greenhouse, metallic one, of the same dimension with the current prices, to erect and install a metallic greenhouse of 10 meters by 28 meters like this one, I will spend 4.6 million. Then I will spend another 2.5 for inputs, operations, labor, up to the end of 6 months. So if you are combining 2.5 and 4.6, that is roughly 7.1. If I planted the 2,000 or so plants here with my normal spacing of 30 centimeter with 2 lines per bed, my target per one plant from here is 3 kilos. So I have 2,000 plants times 3 kilos, that is 6,000. Now, if I'm selling them green, the minimum I'm selling this, whether it's in the open market or on the, we have another market that features better, but let me use the minimum. That is 2,000. So 2,000 times 6,000.
Okay.
That is 12 million. Let me subtract my 7.1. I have made a profit of around 4 point something at the end of 6 months, right? Now, the person who constructed the metallic one.
Okay.
Because with this one, the inputs plus the construction is not up to that 7 point. I'll be spending around 4 million thereabout. Yeah. So within that one cycle, yes, he has made his own. Is the same number of plants. Is the same yield he's going to get. And this thing is going to last here 4 years, depending on how I'm going to manage it. And the same person, after 4 years, is going to change the cover.
Oh, wow.
What is left with is the metallic framework. And the cover is the most expensive part of this greenhouse business. There are some crops, if the person is planting something different that requires that you change the microclimate, then you don't have an option. You have to go for the metallic one. For instance, you wanted to do cauliflower, or you wanted to do broccoli. Those ones that needs a controlled climate. You may not be able to fix all those sophisticated equipment with this bamboo greenhouse. But if you want to do tomatoes, you want to do bell pepper, you want to do these normal vegetables around, for me, it will not be, if I'm looking at the business bit of it, it's not about the aesthetics. It's about me providing the condition that will ensure that I get the same yield like that person. And okay, at the end of the day, both of us will meet in the marketplace. The same place is selling, the same place I'm selling. So that's how I look at it. But there are people who have, of course, they want something fancy, beautiful. Well, and if the fund is there, why not? If we are using the same amount of inputs for the same dimension of a greenhouse, the person doing the metallic one with 7.1 million, he will have done one. If I had the same amount of money, I will have done 2 of this. At the end of every farming season, if I made 12 million for one, you will have made 12 million for one. But remember, I've done how many? 2. So that is 24 million. I've made double. So if we look at the period before we start renovating, be it the metallic and the bamboo greenhouse, you realize that I will have made double whichever amount he has made when we are in the same marketplace. So if I had the same amount of money, like 7 million to do a metallic one, I'd rather do 2 of these, because at the end of the day, it's business. For anybody doing greenhouse farming, we always encourage that they do the colored one. And the reason being that in the open, yes, you can get the colored bell, but the duration they take outside and the exposure to insects, pests, they may damage it and you may not get the desired quality. So for those ones, you can do them in the greenhouse. But for the green one, like this one, we are doing it in the open field because the duration is less. For example, what you can see, this is from a very few plants actually. This is actually our third harvest. Our target per plant actually is for open field is normally 2 kilo. But from so far what we have harvested, I think we are surpassing that.
Well, how many workers do you have currently in the farm?
Excluding myself?
Excluding yourself.
Yeah, we have 10. Yes, here. We have other farms in other places. In total, I can say 24 workers. We try some intercropping. You know, mixed cropping. You have different crops, different sections. Intercropping, you have different crops, but in between the lines. Like now here we have the onions, we have the cabbage, we have this bell pepper. Now there is a trick with the intercropping or mixed cropping. There is a technology. It's called push and pull. Push and pull technology is whereby all these plants, they have different scents. And the insects or pests, sometimes they are attracted by a particular scent. So when you have different crops like this, the pests, they get confused. In other words, they may not like the scent of the onions. They prefer the scent of the bell pepper, and then the scent of the cabbage comes in. They will not like that environment. So kind of you reduce the population of those. So, and some of these things we are doing, it's on trial.
Okay.
Like there are several varieties of like the bell peppers in the market. So not all varieties do well in every location. So what I normally try to do here is I get different varieties I try before I decide which one, especially for my other clients, which one I'm going to plant in a given area. Because if I'm not sure that it's not going to do, I cannot do it on large scale. This cabbage now is 4 months, but we want to harvest it this week. These onions are 7 weeks. This one, normally people will tell you can't have this size of bell pepper.
Look at it, so huge, like so big.
In the open. And we are harvesting today. This will be like our third harvest now. This is another type of chili. It's called jalapeno.
Okay, this one.
Yes, they are not like the bell. This is their shape. They are not very hot. So this was a trial. So now that we know that it can perform here, we want now to plant in large numbers. We don't start planting before we get the market. So we must have the market before we plant so that you don't produce and you don't have where to sell. So, and once we get a client who is interested in anything, we have to first of all try. These are runner beans. They are also on trial. It's not something we have been doing. And then we also have order for this one. Here they call it shombo, right?
Yes, this is shombo. Is it shombo?
Yes.
What is it called?
But I think yes. The trick here is get the market first before you start harvesting. So these are local vegetables. I don't know how they call them. Pakta. Look like garden egg, but it's not garden egg.
Look at. Looks exactly like garden egg. Okay.
These are some of the tomatoes. And these are not hybrid though. It's the seed we extracted after harvesting.
Okay.
The normal tomatoes. This area was not so good, so we decided to plant groundnut.
Okay, here.
Normally it fixes the nitrogen.
Are these groundnuts?
Yes, these are groundnuts. The soil is sandy, so the water holding capacity is low. And then because of that soil erosion, so the fertility is low. So for you to enrich the soil, you have to plant a leguminous plant. So after we harvest this now, the nitrogen content will be high, and then we use manure. It will improve it. So even if you have to use the inorganic fertilizers, you don't use too much of that.
Right, so that will be all for this video. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, share this video, and leave a nice comment. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.